Hi, I'm Madeleine Chapman, and this week I've been living as Jordan Peterson. I've heard a lot about Dr. Peterson, but this week I'm going full immersion. I've eaten only beef. I've read his book, and I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. There's only one thing left to do. School of Feminists. So I'm going to the top of feminism's dominant hierarchy, Clementine Ford, best-selling author of Fight Like a Girl and Boys Will Be Boys. Do you believe that the patriarchy exists?
Obviously, yes, I do. I do believe that the patriarchy exists, and more to the point, I accept the reality of the patriarchy. For me, it's not an issue of belief or not, it's understanding that it's real.
And do you think that the patriarchy is oppressive?
Absolutely, oppressive to everybody. More superficially beneficial than not to men, but still acts in a way that oppresses them.
I don't know if you've thought about this, though. How can the patriarchy be oppressive to women when it was a man who invented the tampon?
Well, you've undone my entire worldview now.
I read it here. That's
It's interesting. I mean, firstly, it assumes that women or people who bled prior to the invention of the tampon had absolutely no way of dealing with their menstrual cycles. And, of course, we have all of human history to disprove that theory and the fact that we're still standing here today.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that a man invented the tampon, a man invented the pad, a man invented the birth control pill, and these are all things that only really, well, not birth control pill, but the other two only really help women. So those are men trying to help women. You know, how are they also part of the oppressing of women if they're helping them?
Well, the thing is that not every single man is an active, conscious agent of the patriarchy. Of course, we know that there are many men out there who support the rights of women and bleeding people in their lives to achieve freedom and dignity and movement throughout the world. So it doesn't surprise me that there would be some men who have women in their lives who would be invested in making those lives easier for women. But I just want to go back to this point that actually people who bleed have been managing their menstrual cycles since the dawn of humanity. It's not so much that a man invented the sanitary pad or invented the tampon. It's that men historically have had access to spaces and to education and to industry that allows them to create certain versions of things that have already been used for thousands and thousands of years. Women have invented things too, you know.
Like?
No. Like the internet.
The problem is, though, is that if we all accept that there is an oppressive patriarchy, then we are now telling young men that you are a beneficiary of this patriarchy and it's making them feel bad. And it's, you know, and they're not feeling good and they don't want to go to university, and this is a real issue because, you know, we need men to be leading the way.
Do we?
Apparently, yes. Yes, because if the numbers of men in social sciences decreases, as they're decreasing every year, not in STEM subjects, but social sciences, then they're no longer going to be going to the top of these industries. And then in that case, where are women going to find people to marry and mate with? Because women want to mate up, men mate across and down. So if we don't have these men staying at the top, how are the women going to mate up?
Well, I think maybe one of the problems that is challenging men like Jordan B Peterson and his acolytes these days is not so much who women are going to marry up with or mate up with, but that more and more women are choosing not to marry and not to mate at all because they realise that these situations and these structures for them are actually not all that liberating. Not currently in the world that we live in, where when women do marry, they end up doing the bulk of the domestic workload. They end up doing significant hours of unpaid work. The if children enter the picture, then women's workload astronomically increases while men's workload decreases. It's actually not advantageous at all for women to choose to live with men in romantic partnerships. The fact that we still do it indicates to me that there's not a lot that Jordan really needs to be concerned about. This is just about maintaining men's primacy and maintaining men's position at the top of the pile. I think it seems more that what is concerning him is that men no longer have power over women.
So you would say, you would disagree with this quote then. I've watched women go through their professional careers. It's a rare woman who at the age of 30 doesn't consider having a child her primary desire. And the ones that don't, there's generally something not quite right in the way that they're constituted or looking at the world.
That sounds to me like quack psychology that is better placed in the 19th century than in the 21st century, and certainly not the kind of science that should be asserted based on a handful of observations.
Well, he says there are plenty who will just simply not admit to having this as their primary desire.
Oh, that's interesting. So he's claiming to be a mind reader.
Yes.
Also a form of quack science. That certainly has not been proven to have any sort of basis in reality. I mean, it's convenient, I'm sure, for Jordan B Peterson to decide that he knows better than the women he's speaking to what they truly feel. But it's certainly not a revolutionary position for a man to take. It's certainly not something that men throughout history have not been guilty of doing. As a woman, I certainly know that I belong to a class of people whose desires and ideas and mentality about the world are consistently disclaimed by men around me. That my actual mentality or my actual emotions about things I'm not thought to be in control of them. That I need a man to define those experiences for me. And Jordan B Peterson clearly feels able to do that, despite the fact that I'm not really sure he knows all that many women based on what he said.
He says that people say there aren't enough women in top jobs, in leadership positions. And he says that's the wrong question. That's the wrong question to be asking. We should be asking, why would anyone, mostly men, want these jobs at all? Because they're not good jobs. They're stressful, and you work overtime, and well, you get paid well, but while women leave law firms at around the age of 30 when they're all wanting kids, it's actually they're smarter because they're doing that, because they know that this is not a good job to be in. So really, women have it better off because they're the ones who are smart enough to know to leave these high-paying but very stressful jobs, and it's men who are dumb and decide to stay in them.
Yeah, it sounds like a convenient way to excuse men continuing to stay in the top echelons of society. I mean, I'd be interested to know, he's written a book called 12 Rules for Life in which he argues that it's actually not very smart to want to vie for these top positions. I know he certainly has an enormous following of young white men around the world. I'd be interested to know if in their reading of this book and their embrace of his philosophies, if they've also decided to stop vying for the top positions in the top industries, or if they consider that to be not quite part of the 12 rules, but a rule of which they can use to excuse or to dismiss the fact that they have privilege in those positions. Oh, well, of course, I am a partner in a law firm, but, it's not a very smart thing to be. I tell you what, it is certainly very smart in the kind of world that we live in, to be able to control your own economic future. And it is not smart as a woman, as he seems to claim. It is not the smartest thing to remove yourself from industry and to remove yourself from economic independence and rely on a man to take care of you. The divorce rates alone show that to be the case. The fact that women consistently retire with far less retirement funds than men do show that to be the case. And, in Australia, where I'm from, the fastest growing group of homeless people in the country are women over the age of 65. So it doesn't seem to me to be all that smart, actually, to put ourselves in positions where we are reliant on anyone else, but least of all, a man, to take care of us.
So you're saying there's more to these rules than just the one sentence?
I'm saying that I think life is a little bit more complicated than Jordan B Peterson has decided he's going to profit out of pretending it is.